thing that we have to do, the verification. It's not showing up on my end when I'm looking at the Blackboard. I don't know if it's, you guys haven't released it yet, but I don't see it.
You have to go to the grade book.
The,
Yeah, go to your grade book. Yeah.
okay. And my second question, I know we're gonna have assignments for task two. Do you have it like built into the calendar when we're gonna talk about that video and stuff for task three part of the semester?
Yeah, that's later on. You don't even need it right now.
Okay.
Okay, but that'll come later on.
Okay.
Yeah, all of that's built in there. Yes. Um, really, the focus needs to be on one and two. Task one's going to be very, very easy for you to do. Task two is going to be, a little more work, and there's some nuance with that. But you've got to do task two and understand it and get that completed before task three will really make a lot of sense.
I think you're referring to assignment one.
Yes, I mean
Okay.
assignment. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
assignments.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to pull up this PowerPoint and
Yes, Nicole, you were asking about assignments or task.
Well, no, I know that this semester is focused on task two. But I know that, with task three with the video, we are gonna get out, schools and stuff. We're gonna have to do that video before
we're going
that
to do
picnic during the summer.
we'll talk about that in week 4. Okay. You just need to know that in week 4, you need to select a teacher within your COP, new acronym, community of practice. We call them PLCs, but within your COP, you need to select one teacher. Ask them if they would be willing to allow you to work with them more individually and go in and do a formal observation, pre-conference observation, videotape, post-conference. And we'll talk about that specifically when we do week 4, our next time we meet, okay? But right now, we got to get you started into this. So let me see if I can pull it up. I'm going to stop share, pull this up if I can do it this way. I'm not sure if I can. Well, when I pull my screen up, Dr. Stedman, it won't let me see what my documents down here. Maybe it's, oh, I see it now. Okay. All right. This is an overview of task 2. I want to go through this as quickly as possible because this is your major focus. Task 2 blends right naturally with task 3 blends right naturally with task 2. Everybody, everybody is going to do the components of task 3. We're just not, everybody's not going to get it ready for submission this semester. We'll talk about that later. But task 3 is a natural extension of task 2. So let's look. This is actually, I edited a PowerPoint for student use. You have this in your NCCPPA repository, NCPPA repository of resources. All right, so the goals, you're building and facilitating a community of practice to address a problem of instructional practice. So the first thing you do is you've got to select a priority academic area and a priority student group. Well, guess what? You've already done that. You did that in task 1. Now, excuse me, we have to build task 2 as if you've never done it or as if evaluators have never seen your task 1. Because the evaluators are not going to look back at your task 1. They are scoring your task 2 separately, individually. So we're going to use, unless you've moved schools, use the work we did from first semester. And that's what we're going to do in assignment 1. We'll talk about that.
Revis, let me make a comment there real fast. I thought about this today. There may be somebody that says, I've rethought it or whatever. You can't rethink it without having to start all that work all over again.
Exactly.
So don't rethink it. You work with what you've already done. Okay?
Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take that background where you examine data, where you identified your priority academic area and your target student group, and built your plan. And you're going to choose, when you pull together your PLC, you will choose an instructional strategy from your plan that you are going to implement in your community of practice. Questions on that? But that's later on.
Remember, a community of practice is basically the same thing as a professional learning community or whatever you call them at your schools.
Right.
They're almost synonymous.
So the main thing you're going to do is you're looking at your evaluator, and what has to come out in task 2 is that you have the capacity to foster a professional learning community to improve student learning. Now, if you're an instructional coach, you've probably been doing this, and that's great. Some of you've not. If you're a school administrator, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've been facilitating and leading a professional learning community. But you're going to do structured activities in your group, in your community of practice will decide on those groups to improve teacher knowledge and skills, and then you will support them in improving, and we're going to focus only on instruction. You will look at some assessments of how you're going to gauge implementation of these strategies, and also you're focusing on the process, how you facilitated that community of practice, the teamwork, and how you worked in that community of practice. In this particular task, you are going to be working a great deal in the North Carolina Leadership Standards 3, 4, and 7. And so just understand that you're about culture leadership, human resource development, and micro political leadership. One of the tasks you have, when you do the commentary, I believe it is, you have to talk about these leadership skills and practices that you've developed over this semester.
And
So,
remember when you do that commentary later on, be thinking about this now as you're writing. You have to identify those standards. You name them
right.
in there.
Key components of task 2. Again, identifying that focus area, convening the work group, implementing strategies, and analyzing outcomes. Just like you would do, and just like you're probably familiar with doing within your PLCs or whatever type of community of practice that you use in your school. So, identify a priority academic area and target student group. That is going to be your assignment 1. We're going to tell you exactly what to pull and work on from your work you did last semester in task 1. Then we're going to ask you to jump down and do some research on structured group processes. What are communities of practice? What is the process of different types of communities of practice? And so on and so forth. We're building some background knowledge. And then our third assignment, building your background knowledge here, is you're going to form your group of interested teachers and you're going to hold your first community of practice meeting. And that's what we will do in assignment 3. So the first area is investigate. You've already done that. Um, I'm going to move quickly through this. Prepare. We'll get to this part when you're selecting your members. You probably have a good idea of who is going to be a part of your professional learning community or community of practice. And then together you're going to decide on the particular strategies that you're going to use, and then you're going to analyze outcomes. This will be the hard part because you're going to have to talk about and design some type of way to gauge how your members of your community grew professionally and how their practice improved and how members can sustain their work individually or within a group learning process. So I think that's probably the hardest part of this whole task. Here is a breakdown, task 2 rubrics. We're going to look at those in a minute. You have artifacts, documents, and commentaries. The components of the task. I like this number 3, and I'm not sure that's the right page number, but I will get you the right page number. And this tells detail of what each different component has to have. Okay, and we'll look at that. And then these are hot links. I like that. Task 2, submission evidence. We're really not going to talk about that yet, but I do want to draw your attention to a couple things. These are the different parts and artifacts. You've got 3. The first one, description of the priority area and of the group. Again, one of the hardest things we have is limiting those words. Particularly, you've got to pull some background information from the task 1 that you submitted and try to condense that into 1,000 words and describe the group as well. So that's going to be a little bit difficult. The next thing is really just working the work, doing the work of the group, describing your group learning experiences and results. And then you've got to build in some feedback from that group and some recommendations, feedback on the process and feedback on your leadership. You'll build some documents, and we'll talk about those, and then your commentary. So, these are the rubrics. We're going to start with this rubric where you're identifying a priority area and focus that explicitly links student performance data for one or more student groups or subgroups. We made you do just one subgroup, and you will thank us for doing that because it would get just unruly if we didn't. You have to explain how the priority area and focus for improving is influenced by existing practices within your school culture and provide a goal with measurable objectives. That's your plan. And then this is the research-based group learning plan that you'll work with on assignment 2.
Mhm.
You're going to consistently facilitate that community of practice throughout. You have to identify protocols and the structured group learning process. You hold meetings over time, and you have to differentiate support for teachers. And this is where I think you can merge out very easily into task 3 and focus with one teacher. You're going to promote teachers' individual and collective work through this cycle of preparing, acting, monitor, assessing, and sharing. That process has to be within your community of practice. And then you use data on that feedback collected. And we'll go into more of this individually. So, with that said, let me go back now and get let's look at assignment 1. And I got permission from Hannah Kokenauer to take her assignments 1, 2, and 8 from last semester to pull and do this assignment. And it's due at the end of this week. Well, not the end of this week. It's due on Tuesday of next week because you're copy and pasting. Assignment 1, and we tell you exactly what to do. From assignment 1 from last semester, copy and paste your introduction. Now, you will want, because you're limited in that artifact 1 to 1,000 words, we're going to look at your introduction, and you don't need to just blindly copy and paste it. You need to be very selective in what you copy and paste. You can wait till later to be selective. You can just copy and paste the whole thing and be done with it for this assignment. Okay? For assignment 2, you're going to copy and paste all your data you collected and analyzed. For assignment 8, you don't duplicate anything you've pulled from here. So if you summarize how you gather data and analyze data and came up with your target academic area and your target student group, you don't repeat that in assignment 8. Assignment 8 is looking at how you presented and got feedback, how you modified your plan and your plan. And we're going to ask that all tables and figures go in your appendices, and that's going to help you when you do artifact 1. So that's what you have to pull this week. Here's your rubric. You need to make sure you get all these things. And I didn't do a helpful hints because you're copying and pasting. However, I did get, hold on, let me try to get it. I did pull Hannah's work, and we're going to look at that. Did it switch screens, folks?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
there.
thank you. This is her assignment 1. Now, all I'm pulling from assignment 1 is my introduction. Because remember, the evaluators don't know where you work, they don't know the context of your school or anything. So you've got to give them a little bit of context. So you wrote an introduction, and that's what you're going to copy and paste for assignment 1. Now, if you want to start cutting things out, that's fine. If I were cutting things out, I definitely do not want to cut out anything that I see here in this first paragraph. She tells me about the geographical area, the number of students attending the school, the breakdown, the diverse population. She has diverse academic needs. She talks about the percentage of her students who are gifted and talented and qualify for students with disabilities and are identified as multilingual learners. She also gives her economic disadvantaged data. That gives your evaluator a great context for what you're dealing with. The higher the percentage, guys, of economically disadvantaged students, the more difficult it is to meet the North and South Carolina accountability standards. That's the way it is. Now, I don't know that you need all of this, but for right now, I will probably copy that. It's talking about the vision, but she does have some demographic information about the number of teachers and how, their advanced degrees and experiences.
But you're right, Dr. Revis. I was looking at that, and that's exactly where you could have take some
Yeah.
information away if you needed to.
I think this is very important that you talk about your overall school ratings and your growth rate. Okay. So she can copy and paste everything you want to put in assignment one. But if you've got time, now's the time to really start carving out pieces because you're limited. All right, assignment one. So all you're looking at is you're giving an introduction. You're framing the context of your school.
Dr. Revison, I want to reiterate what you've said. Begin with what Covey said, begin with the end in mind, with working, having to do for us with your NCPPA, having to work for Dr. Stone and Dr. Revis. Work smart. And you've got to do something anyway. Go ahead and to the best of your ability, I would try to prepare this so that all I had to do was look at it at the end and it would be much easier to get my work accomplished.
Now let's look at assignment two. Assignment two is where you rolled your sleeves up and you really dug into the data. Now, some of you had gobs of data. Guys, you can't put all that in there. Think about that. You can't put all that in there because artifact one, you're limited to 2 pages, 1,000 words. But I do think you need a frame. I would make sure that this is in there. Okay? Where you taking your data from, first of all. And remember, these figures are going to go in an appendix. So instead of saying see figure 15, you're going to say see appendix A. And we're going to put these in your, what are those documents called? In NCPPA, I can't think of it now. But you know what I'm talking about, where we collect all your documents. You're going to put all your figures there. You're going to talk about it here. So, she does some work there. Then she gets into her target student group. She talks about what she examined. This figure goes in your appendix. And then she talks about how she identified the underperforming group of students and why. Then she talks about meeting with her principal. I don't know that you need to put that piece in there. What you're pulling from this assignment, two, from last semester, is about what data you used, how you used it, how you identified your target student group, graphs and figures, tables, all that goes in your appendices, and how you decided about your target student group. That's it.
Misty, you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. If we put those in the appendices, do we renumber them?
Yes, you'll read Appendix A, Appendix B, Appendix C. Yes, you will. And you know what? When you turn it into Task 1 for NCPPA, you're going to have to renumber it again, but at least you'll have them in an appendix format. All right.
Nicole?
Sorry. Since the school report cards are out for 2025, are we updating the informations and
Yes.
charts?
Yes. Thank you.
And,
Very good, Nicole. Yes, you do need to update it with your,
and,
and I
oh,
didn't go back and do that, of course, with Hannah's. And then
I'm sorry.
go ahead. Did you have another question, Nicole?
Just one more, sir. If we're putting you in the appendices for this assignment one, or do you want it also in the narrative, or are we just doing the narrative at the top and then the appendices at the bottom?
Narrative at the top, all tables, figures, graphs, charts, whatever, in your appendices.
Okay.
But you have to reference them in the narrative, okay? Like I showed you. All right, now from assignment 8, what I've got to do, assignment 8 is where you did a presentation to your school leaders, remember that? and then you did a presentation to your a focus group. You didn't call it your community of practice. But what you've got to do here, you can copy and paste the entire thing, but you can't use it all. So I would think that you would need to make sure that you talked about that you made a presentation to your school leaders to get their feedback on your the data that you collected and your academic area and target student group, right? And then you're going to talk about the strategies that you identified and put into your action plan. Remember, you got feedback on those things from both groups. And the culminating thing that you did in this assignment was a long assignment. There's your focus group presentation. Is you revise this plan, right? So I want to look at this plan. She's got grade level teachers will collaborate with administration team in behavior professional development. Okay, behavior professional development is, I would recommend taking that out and not putting that anything about behavior in your final plan, because behavior can't be one of the things you focus on, even though that may be something that you do. I would look down in here. Third, fourth, fifth grade math teachers will work with the lead teacher and interventionist during math PLT meetings to analyze the new math standards, create lessons, and plan activities that show high quality Tier 1 instruction. Excellent. That is the core of what you need to do in this particular task. And you may be focusing on creating lessons that improve number sense and math reasoning skills. Okay? That's the focus of your community of practice this semester. All right?
Everything must have an academic focus.
Yeah. And so she's even got some goals here. Great. That's what you got to have. But that's how you will build this particular assignment. Now, let's take questions. Any questions?
So Dr. Revis, for assignment one, they're pulling from three previous assignments, and they're basically they can copy and paste now, but basically in the end, they've got to synthesize from those three assignments as a
Yep.
final product.
Remember, you got to get it down. Where was that at? I can't remember where that's at in my PowerPoint.
Anyway, we know that the first one's 1,000
It was
words,
1,000 words and 2 single space pages, I believe.
right? And the next one was 2,500 words and 5 single space
Yeah.
pages.
So you don't have a lot, you're going to use those words up very quickly. That's why if you have time, the more work you can do right now, the better. Okay? But you've got to have these essential things. The rubric is just so you have the essential things that you need.
And as you're doing your work, always remember your APA, remember your the professional look, your headings, that nothing has changed with all of that. So,
Yeah.
format, from the very beginning, format, for an end product.
Okay. Um, this is out of your handbook. I want to share this with you. This is page 47. I like this particular section because it specifically says you've got 3 artifacts, documents that support your artifacts, and your commentary. Here is artifact 1. This is what you're going to be developing for assignment. Assignment 1 is gathering this information to build this. Okay, and that's really good. Now, you're not going to do a description of the group until a later assignment. So you're only going to do these first bullets. Your priority in assignment 1, you're only going to do that, and that. Okay? You got all this stuff. For heaven's sakes, don't redo it. You'll have enough work in getting through it and making it 1,000 words. Well, it's, that in and of itself can't be 1,000 words because you got to talk about why and how you selected the group, and about the members, and um a description of your role. I mean, you've got some more stuff you got to put in task 1. So I guess I misspoke, Dr. Stedman. Really, assignment 1, you need to get it down, way down to probably, I don't know, I would say 750 words. But again, you don't have to do that right now. But for task 1, you're going to have to. And then this goes on and talks about artifact 2. And artifact 2 is where you are getting and doing the work of the community of practice. You're not ready to look at that yet. You can. I always like to. And I know many of you want to know, where am I going with this? So go ahead. And then that's your feedback, findings and feedback, and documents by category. That's what I was trying to think. Your appendices that you're doing for these assignments will become category documents, okay, in the end.
Revis, we've got about 18 more minutes.
Okay.
What else where else do we need to go?
Okay. You need to go to assignment. That's assignment 1. It is due on the 20th. All your assignments for us, those 3 assignments, are always going to be due on Tuesday nights.
Remember,
Okay.
you've already got all that work.
So it's only 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second week, you work on research about the communities of practice. We're not meeting. You got to do this on your own. So let's look at that very quickly. Here's where your APA is really going to come into practice. You have to research the tenets of communities of practices, specifically the PLC to 4 model, because a lot of you use that, or a spinoff of that, and the tenets of the impact cycle, and that's from the night book that we looked at. Other authors may include, don't have to, Darling, Hammond, Hattie, and Horde. Now you've got 2 weeks to do this. End of week 3 is when this is due. You are writing a mini literature review. Okay? You must identify the current community of practice that's used in your school, and identify the community of practice that you're going to use in this task. All communities of practice must have the investigate, prepare, act, assess cycle. Here's your rubric.
And Dr. Revis, that community of practice that they use in their school could be the community of practice that they're going to use.
It should be. Well, it could be,
It should.
yes.
Yeah,
It
it
could
should be.
be.
So for most cases, it's going to be one and the same.
And as long as what you're currently using has this cycle, you're fine.
And
So,
now we have had a few schools that did not have a PLC or a community of practice. And if not, you've got to say our school doesn't have one, and then you've got to come up with something.
right. But when you're working with your group, you've got to investigate, prepare, act. What does investigate mean? Well, we're going to talk about which instructional strategy or strategies, and I wouldn't do more than one at a time, that we're going to investigate, we're going to prepare, we're going to maybe do, if I'm working with multi-language learners, I might say that I want to do a lot of graphic organizers, and I might get my instructional coach to give us a refresher so that we're all on the same page about the importance of graphic organizers. Then we're going to act. That means we're going to implement those in your classroom, and then you're going to assess. You're going to go in and do some walkthroughs. You're going to go in with that one teacher as an extension for task 3. You're going to go in and you're going to observe during this cycle. So, but you're just gathering literature, and you have to clearly identify what community of practice process that you're going to use. Now, I did you a little helpful hints. All right. And it's not 100% complete, of course, but don't forget that you've got to have your references, and don't forget APA on all this. Now, um, you may say we mostly use DeFore's PLC model, or we use Jim Knight or Knight's impact cycle. We don't use first names when we're reciting and talking about it. So, or you may use something completely different. You may not have a name for it. But again, you've got to show that you're using this cycle and you're facilitating those meetings using this type of cycle in your group work.
And remember, it's a minimum of 10 references, and they should be 10 different references. This, Dr. Evans, is no different than the literature review you did um, last semester, except your focus is in a different direction, but the same process and everything follows.
Now you may not know the name of the model that you use for your PLC model at school. Ask your school leader, ask your administrator, is there a name for it? Did we pull this from something? Did we make our own? What is this modeled after? And it's okay to say that you did the Force PLC model, but we tweaked it a little bit and made it stronger in such and thus area. It's okay.
If you're already in a leadership role at the school, you probably already know all this. If you're not, if you can't get to your principal, your go-to person would be one of those um, curriculum facilitators in your school because they're practicing this if they're in that role.
All right, let me stop. We're on 619 questions.
Can you quit sharing now, Dr. Revis?
Oh, yes. Don't
Okay.
forget there's your APA checklist, and you will use that really heavily when you're trying to do your assignment 2. Okay? Questions?
Hey, Brandy, you got a question?
Just a super quick question. Just with assignment 1, I know we're pulling from the 3 assignments, but all of that is to be put on one Word doc.
Yes. Yes.
Correct. Okay.
You'll have one Word doc one reference section and one appendix section.
You're taking three assignments from your previous semester and consolidating it into one assignment.
And guys, we're okay if you don't have time to pare it down. We
Right.
get it. Okay. We're giving you a week to do it, and we get it. Now, you've got like two classes this semester. You're going to have stuff for us to get that NCPPA stuff, and it's going to be very easy because we're not meeting with you every week to let this slide. Well, if you let it slide, you're not going to be able to do your portfolio submission. So don't let it slide. I know you only have X amount of time, but try to carve out time every week to do work for your portfolio.
We have, you know, I mean, we've got all the confidence in the world in all of you. We've bragged on you, so don't you let us down with these new instructors that you've got. And we know what you're capable of doing, and you're very capable of. You can handle this with no problem. It's just figuring out, working it into your schedule and getting started with it. But you're excellent writers, very excellent writers.
You are,
Hey,
and you
Heather,
Hey, yeah, I may have missed this. You may have already said it. I know you said our assignments were due on Tuesday. Are they still due at 6 p.m. like they were last semester, or do we have later in the day to get them done since that's like a regular work day for most of us?
so Dr. Revis, we'll be just make sure they're in that afternoon, and we'll be flexible with that. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Revis,
yeah,
that
and
we can
guys,
be flexible with that?
we only have three assignments that right now that you need to worry about. And we know that you have class on Tuesday nights. So, um, yeah, we're not going to nail you to the wall. But if you get behind, I'm not going to pull you back by the bootstrings either. You got to do this. Okay? I'm not going to run after you like I did sometimes last semester because
Well,
no,
we shouldn't have to this
no.
time because all of you know what to do.
And
But
we
yes,
understand.
Heather, that will work. And if it shows up, it may show up because we have to put in there. So if it shows up late assignment or whatever, we'll work with that individually. So don't freak out over something like that. It may end up, if you don't have it in there when it says, it may show a zero, but when you get it to us, that will change. Okay. So y'all don't freak out over that.
We know you have to, your priority has to be your 603 class. We get it. But 603 is no good if you don't do the portfolio, right? You can't get to your end result. So, you will, I'm very confident you guys will figure out a time to do this.
It will. And just remember, 603 is not going to have anything at all to do with what Dr. Revis and I are working with you with. Not one thing.
No, unfortunately it will not. It'll be an interesting class. School law and
Yes,
finance is
you'll love it.
interesting. It is. And remember that all the work you're doing in your community of practice, those, those times can count for your internship. Okay. So it's
Uh-huh.
not like you're not getting double duty for this. Amanda, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Um, I had a quick question. For those of us who are not in an instructional role right now and are in the classroom, um, I've been speaking with principal and instructional coaches and such for their PLCs and the times that are I've been asked about a time set aside to be able to do certain works. I think I saw in assignment 3. Can you just give a ballpark of, hey, I need to complete this amount by, just so that they are open to donating some of their precious time to those of us who are classroom teachers?
Good question. The first thing I would do is if you've got PLCs already organized at your school and it's in that academic area of need, I would ask to go into those PLCs already established. And I would ask if I could facilitate some of those meetings, or at least part of those meetings. I mean, to get people to do extra work, I know that's tough. Now, those may not be organized that way, but that's what I would first and foremost do. Because as the semester rolls through, I'm going to share my screen again and just go back, if you don't mind, to this middle block here. Okay. By week 4, you will have to hold your organizational meeting of your community of practice and select the teacher that you're going to do the task 3 individual work with. And then, well, that's week 5. I'm sorry. And then look, you're in blue all the way through here. Blue is task 2. You're going to meet with them every week. You've got to. If you don't, you're not going to be able to do this. I think that's part of the question you were asking. But yeah, I mean, now you don't meet with them every week as things get going, you're not. Maybe it's just an informal check-in. But to begin with, you are. Use this to kind of plan out and see how many times you're going to have to pull them together. Does that answer your question, Amanda?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we got 4 more minutes.
Revis, we have 24 students here, so I think we've got all of them possibly.
Good, 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 good. Anybody else? If you will use that schedule, that 3-column thing, it will help keep you on track. Now, don't print it off. Unless you're antiquated like me. I have to have paper copies, but you guys are young. You hate paper, and I get it. So I would say not print it off because I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna probably change things. Not in the assignment column and the dates, but I'll be adding resources as we go through in that
Right.
far right column. Okay.
And again, you can reach out to us, either of us, at any time. It doesn't matter who you're with, who you're assigned to, Dr. Revis or me. Either one of us are going to work with all of you. Okay?
But let me
You
say
can
to
reach out
you
to us.
this. If you need to get in touch with me, don't go into your course shell and email me there because I'm not going to look at this course shell every week or every day, rather. Just go to your Garden Web email and send me an email, okay?
Right.
And you got my phone number. You can call me and leave a message if I don't answer. If I don't know your number, I'm not going to answer. You probably don't either. But leave me a message and I'll listen to it, get back to you.
Make sure you tell us who you are and give us a number that we can call you back at. Okay?
And again, you may have questions after tonight when you process this information. You may have questions, and that's fine. Reach out to me or Dr. Stedman or both of us. I like for you to send it to both of us. That way, only one of us may answer you,
Exactly.
but we can see how
Right.
the other person's answered.
Yeah,
And
and
Dr.
that
Stedman,
makes sense. So, put us both in all of you always put us
yeah.
both in the emails and whoever gets to it first and
And we
we'll
we
do
we
that.
will try not to contradict each other. We know each
Right,
other well enough, but this is new work for us.
right,
So we may have a conversation before we even answer you
right, right. But
because this group is going to challenge us. They're going to find questions that we've not even thought about, and we know that, and that's why we love you because you
that's right.
help
And
us so much.
that's okay. That's okay. Jennifer, don't forget to call me tomorrow. Make it shortly after 9 o'clock, okay? or communicate with me.
If everybody's
Um,
internet comes back up, I will post this. I think I'll have two little short ones because I got kicked off and come back in. So I'll post these and put them in your course shell. Well, we're going to get off from here because we got another hour to go, and you have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you in week 4.
it's
Okay?
great to see all of you again, and I'm so glad that we're going to be able to be with you through the end of the program. So,
Take care.
all right, Travis, I'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay.